going on, everyone? Welcome to the Nerd Room. It's a quiet night. It's a quiet Friday night as we celebrate Star Wars Celebration from far, far away. I personally have a lot of convention envy right now because I'm not down at Celebration. And look, Ian, my dude, I have a
Yo,
Celebration 4-day pass right now around my neck. I was supposed to be down in Anaheim
what?
with everyone. Yeah, I wasn't even able to sell this. I had this from 2020 Celebration, and the way they moved things around, it just didn't work out. So I'm sitting here, and I felt like I needed to put it on
That is
for this
insane.
live stream.
I can't even imagine how much that thing cost, and you can't even sell it. Just wearing that's one expensive necklace, man.
I just been wearing it around all weekend. But one thing I wanted to do, because of course it is a big weekend in Star Wars, and if you spend any time on social media, on YouTube, you know there's a lot of things happening inside of Star Wars, a lot of very exciting things in and around this franchise that is near and dear to so many of us. And we decided, hey, let's just throw a little live stream together last minute, talk some Star Wars. We've got a new Andor trailer. We've got some leaked footage from a Mando trailer. And of course, we've got the first 2 episodes of the new Disney Plus series, Obi-Wan Kenobi, that was so hyped up, that was so exciting to watch both Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen talk about this show as they premiered it last night down at Celebration. And so, Ian, my dude, like, we're celebrating Star Wars from far, far away. But
Yeah,
how you doing, man? You feeling that convention envy as well?
man. Yeah, for sure. Like it's one of those things that one of those events that I've always wanted to go to. There was one chance I had when it moved to London, and it was just a really bad timing. I just moved back to Japan, so I couldn't go to the London one. And yeah, man, like maybe next year, maybe in a couple of years, I'll definitely get to one of them. Hopefully with you guys. But yeah, it's just so envious just watching some of the live footage coming out of that show. Even having it on now, and just man, you must be so incredible, so just electric to be there. So
Yeah.
definitely envious, but there's a lot of cool stuff coming out of it. So I'm glad that we're getting a lot more Star Wars next 2-3 years, and more is gonna be incredible. So
Yeah,
just happy
it's a
to
hell
be
of a
able to talk about it.
franchise. It's come a long way in the last couple of years, and with the Disney Plus storytelling, it's only going to get better. Now we got one guest, we got a couple guests actually going to pop on here throughout the live stream, this hour or so long live stream, including our friend Rob Cass, who's actually down in Anaheim. So he's going to give us our perspective in about half an hour on what he's experiencing on the floor. But we had to bring up a man here that has some celebration experience from Chicago from 2019. He's a good friend of ours, good friend of the show. And we're going to get him up here to talk about some Kenobi, some Andor, and just some Star Wars in general. So I'd like to welcome Rick, my dude. What is going on?
What is happening, my Canadian and in Japan friend? How are you guys?
Very, very well, my American brethren, if we want to label us by our countries here. But man, Celebration, you went 2019. You are a connoisseur of everything Star Wars. You are part of, what do you call it, the hardcover army. You're heavily entrenched in the lore of Star Wars and the canon of Star Wars. You are one of the most positive voices out there on Twitter, waving the Star Wars flag constantly. I love the updates that you put out almost every day. This day in history in Star Wars, it brings a smile to my face. But how are you feeling right now? Do you got that convention heavy, or did you get enough in 2019?
Yeah, it's one of the 2019 was my first and so far only celebration, and the FOMO is real.
Yeah.
The couple weeks beforehand. I mean, we knew after Chicago when they announced Anaheim that we weren't going to be able to go. We just knew there was no way it was going to happen. 2020 pre-COVID, like we hadn't planned on it, and then everything kind of went sideways. And then with the big move that we had last year, it was still like, even with the delay and everything, it was like, I don't think it's going to happen. So like I was always resigned to like, no, we're not going to go. And then as we started getting closer and closer, and everybody's selling tickets that can't go for whatever reason, and I was like, oh man, I really wish I could be there, but it's not in the cards. It's fine. Having been there in 2019, like those memories are so precious. And listeners to the Nerd Room and the few times you and I have talked, maybe on the round table, know that I got my 5-day pass for 2019 from you. And the mail was all goofy at the time.
Oh man, what a
I didn't get it.
stressful time that was.
Yeah, I didn't get it till that Friday late in the morning. So I actually went to work Friday and watched the Rise of Skywalker panel in a parking garage underground in downtown Chicago. And walking to and from the parking garage, I had to walk through the hotel. And I was seeing cosplayers leaving to go to Celebration while I was going to work, or walking to my car to watch the Rise of Skywalker stream, and I'm screaming my head off, sweating like a loon when they show the trailer, and you hear Palpatine's voice and stuff in the movies, and it's in the review now, but it's so I have you to thank for all those memories. And so yeah, to not be there this year, it's a bummer, but it's kind of like I kind of feel like, yeah, let somebody else have that turn. Like seeing like our friend Nathan Robertson there, and Robert Cass is there, and some other vets that that have gone to a few and seen our pictures and stuff. It's a lot of fun kind of living through their eyes.
Yeah, I hear you there, man. It's so great to see so many people enjoying themselves. And yes, we want to be down there, but sometimes, like you said, it's just not in the cards. And twice it's been not in the cards for me in 2019. I had my youngest was born like a week before Celebration, and this one, it just didn't work out family timing. The August would have worked, the shove back to May just didn't land in the cards here. And at the time too, when decision making came, I was still unsure about like what COVID was going to look like, and committing to going down to the States, down to Anaheim. Didn't really look like it was going to be a thing 6 months ago. And so I kind of just said, I'm just not going to go. And it rolled up and I said, wow, shoot, I should have been there. But that's okay, because even though we are celebrating from far, far away, there's still a lot of things that we can do, we can experience. They have the live stream, the panels, and I'm sure all you guys saw one of my most favorite moments already from the live show that they're doing is when they brought up Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, and they asked him the question, what one word or what sentence do you want to say? And Hayden Christensen just pops up and says, this is where the fun begins. And the crowd was just electric and exploded around that. And it's such a turnaround moment, I think, for him. You look at him who at times suffered through, the fallout from the prequels. And now the prequels are held so high and precious to a lot of people, especially our generation that kind of went to them, experienced them. And some of us first time getting introduced to Star Wars on the big screen, and to see them up there just being the rock stars. And I think Hayden Christensen, like his way back into this universe through that experience is just so cool to watch in real time. We got to experience a little bit of him throughout the Disney Plus stuff over the last 2 episodes.
Yeah. I was 24 when Attack of the Clones came out. So the rest of y'all can do the math, but I walked out of that movie. A buddy of mine and I, we went opening night, and it was absolute pandemonium when the Yoda Dooku, fight was happening, and kind of leaving there like not really feeling super great about how the movie went down, but still, like, Attack of the Clones is one of those weird movies where, as a whole, like, the criticisms are valid, but there's so many really awesome moments sprinkled throughout that movie that you can, like, it's undeniable the impact that movie had, because the legacy, but without that story, we don't get the Clone Wars. If you get the end of the Clone Wars, and you can have the lead up to it, but to see the younger Anakin and stuff like that. So I'm of the generation of people who completely turned around on it. I never hated it. So when I see Hayden come out and get all the love that he deserves now, like I'm all for it. And I don't know if you saw today during the Attack of the Clones 20th panel that they did, Ashley Eckstein hosted it. And, she's the voice of Ahsoka Tano on Clone Wars. And so they had like Tamora Morrison was there, Daniel Logan, Anthony Daniels, Matthew Wood, a few other people who worked on the movie. And Hayden and Ewan came out. And to see Hayden meet Ashley for the first time, it seems, they sit down and she says to him, "It's nice to meet you, Sky Guy." And
Nice.
that room just blew up. I was watching the live
Wow.
stream, and it was like it was the coolest, like just most wholesome thing. I guess it's not Matt Lanter. He did the voice on Clone Wars, but it just kind of like, man, that was awesome. It was so cool.
Yeah, what an experience. And it's funny what time does to these things. Because like you said, we're 25 years out this year from, I believe, from Attack of the Clones, or 20 years
20,
out.
20.
And that time, it's allowed this thing to kind of set back and people appreciate kind of the story more holistically. Yeah, sure, there's bits and pieces that maybe don't work or are a little cheesy and all that, but in and itself, it's such a great set of films. And I have Phantom Menace is still one of my favorites, but it's a lot of it is tied to the experience of the time and how people are being introduced to this. So people now that are 20 years out that were introduced to Star Wars through the Clone Wars or through the Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, it just becomes such an important piece of it all. And to be honest with you, you mentioned maybe the Clone Wars don't happen. Maybe Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't happen in the absence of the prequels with Ewan McGregor coming back here in the story. And that's the first thing I want us to get into. So we got this brand new series, very highly anticipated. This is something that we've been looking to that story to be told. The question's been asked, will Ewan McGregor ever come back to the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi? And here he is. We've got 2 episodes in front of us. So, Ian, talk to me a little bit about Obi-Wan Kenobi, your experience watching these first 2 episodes. And we're going to go full spoilers here, guys. So don't feel any need to censor yourselves here. We can talk about whatever, and we'll walk through the show a little bit. But I want to get your first impressions of the show.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. That I do need to rewatch it. I watched Obi-Wan. I watched Kenobi yesterday. It was like midnight. I started watching it, and I just come back from watching Top Gun Maverick, which, man, just blew my mind, and I was just so hyped, and I was just expecting to rush home and watch this Obi-Wan show and just be blown away by it. And I think I enjoyed it. I did really enjoy it. I think part of that was because I was seeing Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan again. He was my favorite thing from the prequels, and I just got a lot of love for that character and for him playing that part. So I did enjoy it, but I wasn't, in my opinion, I wasn't really blown away by it. I do feel there was some issues. It was kind of up and down. There were some really great parts, and there were some parts that I just couldn't really accept. I loved Obi-Wan again. There was some really good scenes and some really good sets. I actually, a lot of people criticizing the first episode, but I actually really liked the first episode. I kind of liked that slow build and that kind of backstory that they gave him, and I really liked that, seeing that part of it. But yeah, there was just some things with the editing, and I felt there was some parts were I actually found quite laughable. Like, what's going on here? There was some acting issues and some things that annoyed me in a way, and I don't know. I have really mixed feelings about it. There were some story-wise, it's fine, but I just feel that it felt a little. The editing was a bit strange. Some of the acting just didn't deliver. And I feel like what's going to come next is going to be the better part, because I just don't know. I don't feel the Obi-Wan I'm seeing at the moment is either the Obi-Wan from the prequels or the Obi-Wan from the original trilogy. It's an in-between stage, and I've got to kind of accept that. And I think,
by design, I think
by design, and I think I've got to accept that. I've got to see his transition from A to C, that B stage, and I've got to kind of accept that. But I mean, overall, I really enjoyed it. There wasn't a point where I wasn't enjoying the show. It just makes me think, if it wasn't an Obi-Wan show and it wasn't a character that I loved that much, would I enjoy it as much? So yeah.
Interesting. I want to dig into that concept a little bit more in a minute here, but first I want to hear from you, Rick. 2 episodes in, Ewan McGregor's back in this role. We've got, I think, what could be a very intriguing story, a somewhat slow build, but they do have the opportunity to use the time and maybe more of a as a resource as opposed to kind of whipping through things with 6 episodes here to tell in the story.
I'm going to say this first and foremost. We got an hour and a half of new Obi-Wan content today, and I gobbled it all up. And there were a couple points watching it where I was like, I watched it before work this morning on my phone. But I found myself like doing the thing that I never do otherwise, which is like talk to the screen, where I was like, no, Obi-Wan, don't do that. Like, why are you like this? Could be, his reluctance to help, which I understand, but like his attitude of like the way he's telling, the other Jedi character, Nari, who comes to him for help in the desert, and he's like, yo, go away, go hide. And like, it's such a departure from the character that we saw in the prequels. And obviously, I mean, he had his fall from grace. He thought his brother was dead. He's at that point, he still thinks he's dead. So to see him like completely resigned and turned off from the ideals of what it meant to be a Jedi, it was very jarring. I'll give you that. Again, it was very different. Seeing him not wanting to help. The only bit of compassion that we see of him in the first episode is when he's feeding his Yobi his little scraps of whatever meat that he's cutting off in his from his job. But I like that we're starting at this point. I like that we're starting from this rock bottom point, and to me it fits. It is really hard to see Obi-Wan at this point, having finished Mike Chen's amazing book Brotherhood that came out a few weeks ago. For anybody, if you want more, it's like a Clone Wars story in this book. It is so fantastically written. I can't praise it enough. It was so good. But to see the way the Anakin Obi-Wan dynamic is more cemented in that book leading into the Clone Wars, because it takes place at the very beginning of the Clone Wars, to get to this point. And Obi-Wan, he's essentially alone. I mean, we see him in the episode call out to Qui-Gon asking him for help, and he gets no response. But it's like he doesn't know it yet. He's got nobody. And so it makes sense that he would be this off-put hermit, that crazy hermit from out in the Dune Sea. I mean, there's a reason why Uncle Owen said that, in episode 4. So there's so many good things that I loved about this show. And again, we're jumping full spoilers here. Seeing Alderaan, seeing Bail,
wow,
and
how great was
Bail
that?
Organa.
Yeah.
My God, that whole scene, like, I had a feeling there were rumors of Leia being in the show a few months ago, and an actress was cast, and that all turned out to be true. Shout out to Jordan Mason, because he was the one that scooped that back in the day. But it was like, I didn't think we were going to get it as early as we did and as much as we did. And to see this little girl, this actress who's playing Leia, do it so well. Like, I loved that she's this precocious, outspoken, headstrong, she's this little hellraiser. And to me, it's such a tribute to Carrie Fisher, who was, the fingers flying badass that we saw at Star Wars Celebrations Past, before she left us. I see that in this little girl. She reminds me of the one girl from Game of Thrones at the end, whose name is forget.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about. I don't remember what her name was either, but like just this headstrong kind of person. The way she gives it to her cousin, where her cousin's like, "You're not even a real Organa," and she's like, she just starts dishing on him right away and like walks away. And I love the scene that Brea and Bail give to her just afterwards of like, there's ways that you can put people down like that, but you're destined for so many greater things. And when Brea leaves and it's just her and Bail, and Bail's like, it's going to be so much better when you're in the Senate and you get to really boss him around. And Leia's like, yeah, but what if I don't want to do that? The way that he's fighting for his daughter, because she gets kidnapped by Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, that was
awesome. His name was Vect in the show. And he did a really good job. I really liked it. It was a little like, it kind of takes you out of it a little bit because his face is so recognizable.
some of his there was some stages where like he turns to someone and he says something and he's nodding and I'm like, is he like an actor? Like I've seen this guy before, and then I had to like look it up because there were some points where I felt like his acting wasn't perfect, but then later on he kind of when he comes back later and he's got the girl, he's actually really good. So, yeah,
he's done a couple of movies. He was in Back to the Future 2, I think.
Needles.
He's Needles, yeah, and Needles gets mentioned in Solo, a Star Wars story. So I mean, that's the connection there. That Needles was the guy that Solo says, "I learned this trick from Needles," and it's this like racing move, and that's in Back to the Future 2. He wants to race Marty McFly while he's in his truck. So it's the same character. So Easter egg. And speaking of Easter eggs in this show, there was one that kind of flew under the radar. And I teased it a touch on Twitter. I didn't want to put it straight out, but the scene when Obi-Wan goes to find the Jedi on Dayu in the second episode, Kumail Nanjiani's character, shout out to the Brown guys, and he's this con man who is like taking money from people to get them to safety, which he's doing something good, but he just likes the money too much. The woman and her son that are trying to seek passage off of Dayu, it's not said in the show, but that little boy's name is Corran. And for people who have read like Star Wars Legends books, there was the character Corran Horn from those Legends novels, who was a Jedi character post Return of the Jedi. Now, his story, Corran in Legends, was born in 18 BBY and was raised on Corellia. In the show, that boy looks to be somewhere between 8 and 10 years old, and they're going to Corellia for safe passage.
Whoa!
And
this is why Rick is here, man. That's insane.
I was watching the show, and again, he's not in the show. His name isn't said in the show. It's in the credits. And I'm one of those that I always pause and to look at the cast and see who's who, and it just says Corran, and I'm like, no way. There's no way.
There it is, man.
And it's a very
edition, man. Like, that's insane. Like that.
It's a way out there thought. It might not even be, but it's like it's such a well planted Easter egg. That's
that's great.
Come on, guys. And then to see that Pablo Hidalgo is now the Star Wars lore advisor in the credits, so he probably threw that in there. There's lots of cool little things that he's been throwing in.
Oh man, that's wild. That's really cool. I like that because that's the benefit these shows have, right? It's these little nuggets of Star Wars lore that are kind of planted in there, and the way that they have guys like Favreau and Filoni, and then Deborah Chow, who's worked with Favreau and Filoni, and Pablo Hidalgo, that are all kind of working concurrently to bring Disney Plus and bring the stories together, right? You have this way of designing a story that is kind of maybe a bit more holistic and connected and kind of aware of itself in some ways. And so that's really cool, Rick. Thank you for bringing that to the table. And I just want to touch on one thing with Leia. I kind of wasn't expecting her to be in the show. I didn't really hear that she was going to be in. And like you said, the amount that she's in the show, I think, is really cool. And it makes so much sense story-wise that the way to get Obi-Wan off of Tatooine to do something that doesn't have to do with Luke is, of course, Leia. Like, when it happens, I'm like, oh, yeah, of course that is how you get him off.
I'm like, how did nobody even guess that? Like, that was... We were all wondering why Obi-Wan is leaving Tatooine, and there's just like there's no reason, and this is like the best reason ever. Like that's probably my favorite thing about the show.
Me too. It's like it makes so much sense.
Yeah. And they're like one of those little weird Legends things too. I don't remember which story it was in, but they're in one of the Legend stories. Obi-Wan leaves Tatooine, and he's worried about Luke. He's like, "What do I do? Like, I can't just leave this boy." And Force Ghost Qui-Gon basically tells him, like, I'll babysit Luke while you go. Don't worry. So like this, what like the goofiest thing of like Force Ghost, Qui-Gon is babysitting Luke while Obi-Wan's off on some adventure.
He's coming, man. Qui-Gon's coming.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I almost
the fact that he keeps asking for him to give him advice, and he's not appearing, and I'm like, he's coming, man. Like, we're gonna lose our minds when that guy appears.
Liam Neeson definitely makes a guest appearance in this.
For sure,
100%. Qui-Gon is definitely the Chekhov's gun of this series. I mean, he got mentioned in the first episode, so he'll be there.
Yeah, totally.
I just like the idea that even with Bale saying like she's as important as the boy, and I thought that's great. Like this whole focus on Luke, and and Leia is as important as he is. And I just like that, you know, it was always kind of strange that, like, I know, you know, Bail and he has a lot more protection and stuff to take care of Leia, and Obi-Wan chose to go and protect Luke. And that was always kind of like a weird thing for me. Like, how about both of them? Like, you know, who's gonna look over Leia? Why would you choose to look over Luke? Just take care of Luke. And I just like that idea of course, Kenobi, like, Obi-Wan trusts Bail to take care of this girl, but at the same time, she is as important. And if anything does happen to her, it's as important for him to protect her than as protecting Luke. And I love that. That's just the best thing of the show, I think.
And like, she, in a different way, in a non-Jedi sense, you know, you could argue at times, you know, is she more important than Luke, right? When you look at the story more holistically, the entire Skywalker saga, her influence on the rebellion, and then her influence into the sequels and building out the resistance and all that, like, such an important person for more like a galactic sense too. And so it is really cool to see her being more of an integral part of this particular story.
There, you know, there was also the worry too about like breaking canon if Leia meets him. You know, you look at the message in A New Hope, and she's speaking almost formally, like she doesn't really know him that well. He's just something that, you know, Bail told her about in stories. But to have this meeting in the way that they have interacted in that second episode, and then go to Luke's rescue scene of Leia in A New Hope, when, you know, he says, "I'm here to rescue you. I'm with Ben Kenobi," and she goes, "Ben Kenobi," like, it makes total sense now that she knows who he is. Yeah. And it also gives that much more credence to the fact that she named her own son Ben. If somebody in her past helped save her life somewhere, he was the light of, he was the light in her life at that point, and maybe as her son, he became the new light of her life going forward. And
that never made a whole bunch of sense to me in the sequels. Like, why did she name her son Ben?
Now we know
she didn't have the more inherent connection to him that Luke did, right? And now you just tied up that little piece. And, you know, is that a huge worry? No. Does that matter a whole bunch for the story? No. But is it kind of a cool little thing to kind of tie up a little bit of something that happens, you know, decades later? Yeah, I kind of love little pieces of that. And that's what the effect of these shows can have on the grander story, the Skywalker saga. It's very, very cool that they've been able to weave so much into this. And, you know, we've got 4 more episodes of Kenobi here. And one of the things, I guess, that we have to touch on before we move on here, we're going to bring Rob here in about 5 minutes into the show to talk about Celebration from the Floor. But it's the whole dark side element of this. We've got the Inquisitors. We've got quite a few of the brothers and sisters, 4 already to date. We've got at least 1 new one. And we've also got our first look at Back to Vader 2, the big teaser, the big stinger at the end of episode 2, which in my mind, I'm like, okay, the first time we're going to see Vader is definitely sometime in episode 2. And they kind of give us the Back to Vader. So, Rick, we've got the Inquisitors live action. We've seen them a lot in Rebels, and they were a big piece of that show. And to see them transition to live screen, I think or live action is pretty cool. So talk to me a little bit about the Inquisitors and the dark side element of this show.
Well, let's just go like kind of like super fast history. Like the Inquisitors have their origins going back to like one of the role-playing games way, way back, just kind of in name. And to see what they did in Rebels with the Grand Inquisitor, and in the Vader comic had a bunch of Inquisitor stuff. There's a lot of cool lore ties there with some of the other Inquisitors who aren't really on screen all that much. And Jedi Fallen Order had Inquisitors all over it too. So to have them brought about in this show the way that they are, and it's weird because you got this kind of power dynamic between Reva, Moses Ingram, who I love her automatically. Like, to hear her in interviews prior to this say that her character is just ruthless and willing to do what it takes. I didn't know that it was going to be to this level. I mean, she's out there like chopping hands off and stuff, like just on her own. And like she's butting heads with the 5th brother and with the Grand Inquisitor. And it almost seems like the kind of thing that's going to be kind of her reckoning. But she's doing it to, to gain favor with Vader. And let's talk just for a second about the way this whole series opens with the Order 66 at the temple with the young man.
Yeah.
And she has to be one of the kids that's
100%.
there.
That was my
right.
feeling.
Yeah.
So that's her connection with Obi-Wan. Maybe she feels that like Obi-Wan betrayed the Jedi. He's still alive. He didn't do anything to help. However, she got sucked into the dark side. Maybe she feels this sense of, he didn't uphold his end of the bargain, being a Jedi Master and being alive, somewhere out there, because she's out to get him just as much as Vader is. And
there's more to that story to be told. I think.
I thought that was a bit disjointed at first. Like when I saw that end scene, I'm like, how does that connect to anything else? And like just after thinking about it for a while, maybe the girl looks down. She goes, what do we do now? And she goes, run. Like I'm thinking that's her, right? That's probably going to be her because they even touch on that. Like, they are ex-Jedi who turned to the dark side. So
right.
Yeah, I'm
just what you're talking about Clone Wars too. There's the little Tamora Morrison cameo that was fantastic as well.
Dude, that broke my heart, man. It was like I just hear like his voice, and to see the overturned Clone Wars helmet, the clone helmet, and to see him like in his beard and stuff.
Yeah,
because it was one of those questions I had of like, will Tem be in this show as a Purge Trooper? Because the Purge Troopers were some of the last clones. And there's a cool scene in one of the Vader comics where there's another Jedi that's being hunted down, and that Jedi says execute Order 66. And since the Inquisitors used to be Jedi, the Purge Troopers fire back on the Inquisitors while this dude gets away. It is a cool scene, but then to see Tem pop up this way with this, crazy beard and stuff, it was there's
for a moment that I was like,
there.
When I thought like Obi-Wan says like, give me a sign. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, is that Rex? Like, is that what this is?
Yeah.
But I'm cool. Like maybe Rex appears at some point somewhere. But
what's even crazier about it is that
I think we'll probably see more of a Cody than a Rex in this show. I think
that clone is wearing the blue and white armor.
He is
of the 501st, which was Vader's crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's just another tie back to Anakin of like
that's what little string.
That's what Anakin does to his people in his wake.
Have you seen the Luke Skywalker, the Mark Hamill cameo? Have you seen that on the internet?
In this show?
In the show, so there's a guy and he walks past and it looks exactly like Mark Hamill in the background, and it's all over the internet at the moment saying like how this is a cameo of just Mark Hamill, not necessarily Luke Skywalker, I guess.
That's hilarious.
And people say they're going to wait for a few days, but this guy walks past in the background, and when they focus in, they light it up. It looks exactly like Mark Hamill.
I haven't seen that yet. I gotta do some more digging.
Yeah, he's wearing like he's got like a robe on. He's got over his head, and he walks past, and he looks over at the camera, and he's just he looks exactly like him.
It's the benefit of filming everything on the volume. You can just have people come in for the day. You don't have to fly to like somewhere in Africa or whatever, right? To get them to cameo into a show. You can just say, hey, just drive down to the volume for today.
The only cameo that I saw in this episode was Steel Saunders from Steel Wars.
Okay,
had a role.
I saw him post
he was there.
Yeah, he was an extra.
Wow.
He was an extra.
Yeah, he took there's a screenshot of him with it, and he kind of time stamped it and put it on Twitter or Instagram. And I haven't gone back and looked at it again, but I thought it was pretty cool.
I did. Cool you could see him a few times.
Really?
He knew. I was listening to. He was on Blue Harvest with Haas Burkhardt a little, and he talked. There's a lot that he can't say. We haven't been on the set and stuff, but he did say that while he was out there, the scene that they filmed with kind of Reva cutting the one hand off, that was done a lot, and so as an extra, he had a lot of time to just kind of walk around the set and check things out. Like in between takes and stuff like that. But he knew about all of this. He went ahead, like he had stickers made that he released today. I guess he's going to have at Celebration. He's just been sitting on them. He couldn't tell anybody. Which like, talk about like, for any one of us as massive Star Wars fans to just, and he says he got the role just by making, he found the casting list for it, just like a call up for it, because he knew the shooting name for the show and just tried out like anybody else, and he may happen to get it.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
so cool. Yeah, I know
So
he's
yeah,
been
it's
invited
amazing.
to like red carpet interviews and stuff, but
Well,
like, yeah,
he
that's
worked for media in Australia, so he's
Yeah.
been in this world for a long time. But this was like a legit thing where he's like, "I'll just see if I can get it," and he did. It wasn't like I'm going to call somebody that I know. He went through the process and he got it. So
There's
hey,
our
Mike.
boy Mac. He's a quick break at work, and so much Star Wars Day, so much Star Wars. Now, as we're kind of talking about this, I'm going to bring up. We've got another guest we're going to pull into here to kind of give us the vibe, the feel of the celebration floor and what Kenobi's doing there. So we'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Rob Cass, coming to us live from Anaheim on the
wow,
floor of
legend.
What up?
Star Wars Celebration. Rob, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me okay over there?
Yeah, everything sounds good, man.
Okay, perfect. No, I just don't you have my usual setup. So I'm on an iPad in Anaheim, about 3 blocks away from Celebration itself, and celebration.
So tell us about before you get into like the depths of what it's like on the floor right now. What's the feel out there for Kenobi? Have you watched it? Because there's a red carpet premiere last night that our friend Dave went to. What's the feel out there? The vibe of Kenobi.
Oh, well, there was a couple things. We first I was on the floor for Star Wars Live when Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor and I got to see the last 10 minutes. And when they're finishing up the interview, and the interviewer says, "Hayden, any words before the episode's air tonight?" And he says, "This is where the fun begins." The place went ballistic. It was just
Yeah.
it was just, and those moments when you're there, they're hard. It's hard to describe. Like, you can't. Nathan Roberts, friend of Tumbling Saber, he's from Newfoundland, Canada, and this is his first. I think his first time out of Newfoundland, let alone anywhere. so
What a place to go.
Yeah, I met up with him at LAX when we both landed at similar times, and he's taking pictures of palm trees. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So it's, and I'm like, we're on our way there, and then he was just, I was trying to explain what is celebration like to somebody, and you can't explain it. It's like trying to telling somebody, oh, you don't have no idea how much you're gonna love your kids until you have them. I mean, it's something you just have to. Of course, my kids I love my kids way more than the celebration. Don't get me wrong, but
it seems like this.
Yeah, some days.
When I get there,
Yes,
I'll have that conversation.
Yes. So we have those moments. I'm like, I can't describe it to you. And then when that happened, I looked at him and like, that's it. That's what celebration is, and it's just like-minded people. It's everybody's. It's just your tribe, right? Like, it's. I'm old, so I did not go to the Kenobi watch along. So I was back and I'm on Eastern time, and for me right now, what are we at? I'm at 7, just a little after 7:30. For me, this is 10:30. So
you and Rick both.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and Rick, yeah, I'm a tradesman by day. So I'm in bed early, so I'm slowly losing the jet lag. But so I was back, and then Nathan's messaging me, and he's saying, "Hey, are you gonna wait till midnight to watch Kenobi?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna wake up, and before I touch my social media, I'm just gonna watch them, like, because it's just, I know they'll be there for me when I wake up in the morning." So, but everybody there was, I was watching guys before I came on, and the same sentiments, the same things were said. The trailers pointed, "Oh, look, he's looking at Luke. He's looking at Luke." And it's like, why would he leave the planet? And it's just like Ian was mentioning earlier, it's like the most obvious reason why.
Yeah,
and they're dangling,
that no one thought of.
Yeah, they're dangling Luke, and then they just like, "Oh, here's Leia." Like, it was ridiculous. So and here you can't really, if you walk the floor, you're at a Star Wars celebration, and people travel, across the world or even across the country or to get to this thing. So you're not going to get an honest review, you know what I mean, from anybody. Everybody's just in love with it, and also too, it's the vibe, right? Everybody's just, and all the new reveals. There was an empty display, and we're like, well, that's weird. Did somebody pull out because of COVID? And then we walked in this morning. It's like, oh no, there's all the prop decorate or uniforms for the Inquisitor and Kenobi, and
cool.
like they're all in the glass case.
Right,
so
yeah.
it's like, this was completely. I mean, everybody knew. They just had to hold on an extra day to show it. So really awesome.
So tell us about the floor. What's the floor like, man, down there in Anaheim right now? You know, we've kind of gotten through Kenobi here. We've talked through it, and we're gonna expand on it, of course, on the podcast. But let's hear from someone that's you spent the last 2 days in celebration on the floor, man. You probably wiped, but talk to us a bit about what's like. What's the feeling down there?
This time a little different. This is my first celebration as a full-fledged astromech builder. Because Chicago, even my R2 wasn't quite done. And even though I didn't bring my R2 to Anaheim because they don't, U.S. Customs, for some reason, Rick, I don't know why, you guys get testy when we have homemade electronics? When you try to get them
yeah.
order?
Some things have happened here, so.
Yeah. Did you build this yourself? Oh, yes. Oh. So.
Everybody knows Canadians can't be trusted one way or another, so it's
you bring in your thermal detonator, your 3D printed. Probably not a great thing to get through the airport at LAX.
No, not what you want to do, and they're hard enough there because I'm bringing my socialist vibes, and I'm joking. Americans don't. I'm gonna look out my window here. And anyway, so I walk in the floor. I have my tunic and I got my little badge, and I got when you see the 501st and all the regions where they're from. So it feels like you get the nods, the bro nods when you see other astromech builders. It's like, okay, yeah, what's up? Yeah, exactly. The most nerdiest. You know what I mean? What's up there?
But they're your kings. They're your kings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're. It's weird because I think a lot of them hold me in a little higher regard because I know the experience of laying with a woman. So a lot of people want to be regaled with that tale. I'm sorry, I'm joking. I'm sure.
So this is the jet lag talking in them.
Yes. They gave me a sash and they made me their king. Anyway, but the floor is awesome. As Tim, I'm in the hunt for. I collect the 3 3/4 vintage figures. I'm down to the final quote unquote 17. There's arguments. I've already had a vendor tell me, "Oh no, it's actually 15." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm Canadian, so I gotta include yak face." So anyway, if it just. I don't know. It's like, who's more vintage macho? It's like, this is terrible. Why are we doing this? But nothing's priced to sell. It's like
not yet.
I'm going to talk to these guys on Sunday afternoon. It's like, you really want to take this home? Like, how much money did you make this weekend? Did you break even? You want to bring some money home to your wife? Maybe I can cut a deal. But yeah, it's like even like the plainest figure. Like I saw a Ghost Anakin with there's no weapons, no accessories, decent shape, and it was like $120. It's like American.
Yeah. So that's like $400 for us Canadians.
A cajillion, yeah, exactly.
It's like all of the money.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of people that are it's like because when you're here and you're like, oh, it's celebration, just go for it. So you still have to be savvy when you're shopping. If you're shopping for vintage stuff, all the exclusives and anything on the shelf is priced. That's the price point. That's what you're going to pay. I did see a X-wing Luke for like 120 American, so that's coming down a little bit.
Yeah, that's from the last. That's from the celebration that you got me. The X-wing Luke there, the black series you're talking about, right? Or are you talking about still the vintage?
That was the black. Yeah, the bit larger.
Yeah, the one that is celebratory one. So very cool, man. Well, like we'll look forward to some more pictures and regale us in some of those stories here. But we gotta talk about some of the reveals that you mentioned here. The first day we had the live action panel that was heavily focused. I guess it was a Lucasfilm panel that it turned out to be, as opposed to just a pure Star Wars one. So there was the indie stuff and there was the Willow trailer that dropped. But we got to talk about some of the big Star Wars stuff that they laid on us here. So Ian, let's talk about Andor first. The publicly released trailer for Andor. It came out. We got this beautiful trailer constructed around the story of a character that we saw in Rogue One. It was revealed that it is dropping on August 31st, 12 episodes. It's going to be told in 2 parts, both 12 episodes long. And so this is a humongous story. So Andor, just talk to me about the trailer a little bit. How did you feel about it? The story, it's darker, it's grittier. It's really picking up on the tone and the vibe of Rogue One. And again, we're stepping back a few years from there, and looks like this two-part show is going to actually bleed into Rogue One eventually. But man, Star Wars on Disney Plus, we're still exploring the OT era, but I'm here for it all day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like that trailer, I think out of any of the recent trailers that we got, especially for the shows, this is the one that's excited me the most. Like, just there was just something about that trailer just throughout it. I'm like, this is exactly what I want. Just I'm a big Rogue One guy. Like Rogue One is probably, I put Rogue One in probably my top 3 Star Wars movies. Like, I love that movie. So just seeing that it captures, the same kind of aesthetics and the same kind of atmosphere as that movie was fantastic. And just, I don't know why the production value of this show just looks really top notch. It just looks like they've put so much time and effort and money into this show. And it does capture a slightly darker side of Star Wars that maybe we did get in aspects of Rogue One. But it just feels like Star Wars. It does really feel like the stuff that we got before. So for me, like that trailer, I was really looking forward to this show, but it was one of those ones where I thought, I don't really know where they're going with it and what's the purpose of it, and is this the best character for us to bring back? And you bring back Obi-Wan, and of course, like, he's just a massive character, and like that makes sense. But for some reason, like, bringing back this smaller character from just one movie and creating like a 12 episode season around his character, I don't know, it kind of excites me more. Like, I kind of want to see that side of things, and I want to see the build up to the creation of the rebellion and their fight and all the stuff that's going on there. And it doesn't have to include any of the force powers, and it doesn't have to include any of the the Jedi lore and stuff. It's a little bit more down to earth and a little bit more about the people and their drive to kind of stand up against the Empire. And I think something about it, just the feel, when I watched that trailer, I'm like, what? Like, I'm gonna love this show. I went back and watched it again. I think that was probably the trailer that has impressed me the most out of all that we've received so far.
Yeah. How about you, Rick? The character itself, Carlos does like to draw a likeness between you and the title character here.
I'll take it. I'll take it all day long.
He's a good looking dude, man. And
yes, he is.
And you look in the mirror, 2 good looking dudes here.
I know.
But this story here, like Ian said, it captures an aesthetic that really builds off of what Tony Gilroy built in Rogue One, and it feels like we're going to look again at the side of the story of the rebellion that has required sacrifice, that has required some form of doing the things that maybe the good guys traditionally don't do. And I think this is a great story and a great way to pick up on that and draw a new and bigger audience into this. Because this one, it feels like Star Wars, but it also doesn't in a way too, which I think is really cool.
That's probably my favorite thing about this show is the fact that Tony Gilroy has said that he's not necessarily a Star Wars fan. But what I like about him is that he's just a good storyteller. So, to have him come in and write this spy action adventure story in the in the clothing of Star Wars. It really fascinates me. I've been personally, and I know there are others, but when this show got announced that that Disney Day back in December of 2019 or whatever that was, 1,000 years ago, this show and The Acolyte were the two that I was the most hyped for, and obviously for reasons. Like I'm all about Andor and like, and I do this jokingly, but it's like, it's also like just a matter of representation to have another Mexican like be in Star Wars.
Well, you have a really
like,
great story about your dad, right? Watching Rogue One.
Not
And
me. No,
who's-
not me. There was a woman who was interviewed shortly after the movie came out, and she said that she took her dad to see the movie,
Yeah, okay.
and her dad was born and raised in Mexico. They're in America now, but he still had an accent, and he was like, he sounds just like I do. And you know, just to hear like, and it may seem like just a very trivial thing because that's just the way Diego Luna speaks because he happens to be Mexican. He's a Mexican actor. But it means something. Like that's what my grandparents sounded like. You know, my parents, you know, came to America from Mexico. So I'm like, I'm first generation American. So to have that represented in Star Wars was a really powerful thing. Also, knowing what we're getting out of the story in that Vanity Fair article, they were talking about how this is an immigrant story. This is a refugee story. Because, you know, Tony Gilroy spilled the beans on a lot of stuff. Robert, you were there, or you've probably heard the stuff that like, he gave a lot of specifics about what's going to be in this show, either in the Vanity Fair article or what was said at the panel. You know, the whole first season is 5 years before Rogue One. The second season is going to bridge the gap, basically leading up to the start of where we see Cassian in Rogue One on the Rings of Kafrene with Tivik and my gloves. So, you know, it's going to be really cool to see this displaced person, his world, you know, being taken from him essentially, and how he's got to cope with that being from this bottom, kind of like Obi-Wan right now, at this bottom, feeling compelled enough to join this fight where he felt that everything was taken from him. To me, that's a really, really interesting framework for this story, knowing that Tony Gilroy is behind as a showrunner what the story is going to be about, and knowing that they knew from the onset that they had enough story to tell for 2 full seasons. And when you think about it, for a single character, we're getting more from Andor in this story than we've gotten from any other character singly. You know, if you're talking about 2 seasons, and let's just say the average is about 40 minutes per episode, you're looking at about 18 hours of Andor content, which for me, like, between me and my friend Catherine Neen, if you guys follow her on Twitter, she's the #1 Andor stan. Like, I cried seeing him in the trailer. I didn't think I was going to have that reaction. Just seeing him pop around the corner for that 1 second, I was like, man, that's my dude. Even my son jokes around. He's like, I don't know, Dad, like it's your own TV show. And I'm like, man, that really makes my heart big right now. You know what? Like, it really does. It's a really cool feeling. Because I remember, like, and Rob, like, you know what the vibe is like at a celebration when like people see somebody in costume or dressed a certain way, the attention that people get, whether they want to take pictures or whatever. Being in Chicago, my wife bought me an Andor replica jacket off Etsy for Christmas prior to the 2019 celebration. And I was wearing the jacket and I had khaki pants on, cargo pants, because I needed pockets, because that's just a smart way to be at a celebration. And I remember hearing people like, yo, that guy looks like Cassian Andor. That dude looks like Diego Luna. And I was like, I'm just a dude wearing a jacket because I like this character and it fits me well. And I like the way it looks. But it was during that time it started to really dawn on me of like, well, yeah, why the hell not? I should just own every second of this. You know, I'm not Cassian. I'm not trying to be anything like that. But it's like, why not embrace this selfless hero character who sacrifices himself? I'm not trying to die for America or nothing, but it's like, who would sacrifice himself for a cause? I feel like I've fallen on some swords in my lifetime, in my 44 years, that, you know, there's something relatable to the way that Cassian has been beaten down to a point where he didn't want to fight, and something brought him back into this point of stepping up for other people that he may never know. So I'm all about this series, man. This has been number one on my thing. And to see people say things online like nobody asked for this, who gives a damn if nobody asked for it? It's gonna be fired. Just watch it. Shut up and watch it.
Well, I've never liked that. Like, it's, no one ever asked for anything. Did anyone ask for Multiverse of Madness? Like, that's not the point. Like, the point is they're telling stories, and like you beautifully put it too about this being an immigrant story, a story of sacrifice and all that. Like, it's a Star Wars story that's reflecting real life in a way, right? That's telling or providing social commentary on certain aspects and certain things, and like that whole thing. Like, look, did anyone ask for Skeleton Crew? No. Is it going to be great? Yeah. Right. Did anyone ask for Mandalorian? Probably not. But here we are. And so, like, that's the reason those people are doing what they do. That's the reason why these creatives have this freedom to work inside of that. That's the reason why Kathleen Kennedy has been so damn successful for the last 4 decades inside of this space. You know what I mean? So let's just leave it. Let's just enjoy it. And I was saying on the podcast this week, like let's embrace this. What we have in front of us, right? Like it's nonsense. You can not like something, but it's nonsense to think that nobody wants an Andor, no one asked for an Andor story. Because like from the looks of the trailer, it's going to be absolutely incredible. And that's not the only thing we have here. They did debut also some stuff from Mandalorian season 3, which shocked me how much they've actually filmed on this. There's a substantial.
Are you saying you've watched the trailer? Did you watch the trailer?
Oh yeah, of course, man.
Okay.
Look, this thing wasn't released publicly. This was meant for like our friend Rob Castier, for those down in Anaheim, and I'm okay with that. But there's 1,000 leaked copies of it. Of course, I'm gonna watch it. I'm sorry, Lucasfilm. I'm sorry, Disney, but you can't.
You know what?
Can't
Don't even apologize. I say good for the people that leaked it as a matter of protest to Lucasfilm for not having these panels live streamed. If you want to
all day,
if you want to cut bits out to say this is just for the people in the room, cool, because that happened for us in Chicago. Even not being in the room for the Mando panel, then we didn't get to see the footage that they showed. That's whatever 5-6 minutes of the episode that they showed outside of the room. I'm cool with that, but to not have the entirety of the panel available for people, they're not doing that for any of the big panels this weekend, which I think is a terrible thing. So if you got, I downloaded a copy of it and it turns out my file was corrupted, but I'm share it, watch it. Who cares? They're not revealing anything. It's cool. Like Rob, people you paid your money to be there. Great. But there's a ton of fans who either can't afford it or just can't be there for whatever reason, for work reasons, family, health, whatever the thing is. Show some of it.
Even the people that are there would want that to be shared to everybody. The people who are watching it live, it's not like they feel like they're privileged to be there and watch this thing. They want everybody to see it, and the atmosphere that you're gonna have being in that place and seeing it there.
That's the experience.
Is one thing. That's the experience. So
that's what you're paying for.
They're not gonna complain that I pay for this ticket and why should everybody else see that? That's nonsense. I don't see why.
The footage is one thing, but you're exactly right, Ian, right? It's being on the floor, Rob. It's being in the panel that you pay for. It's it's the same thing with going to when you did No Way Home or Endgame and you have that experience in the theater, right? You're paying for that piece of it. And no one's going to be mad that the Mando season 3 footage is out there. No, I guarantee there's not a single person that was sitting there being like, I'm glad I paid the $300 to sit in here and watch that. And no one else gets, no one's thinking that. And so it was cool to see, I didn't even know they had really started filming that, but there was it looks like they're at least halfway through doing this and it looks pretty crisp in that. And it looks like it's going to be a Mandalore story. They're diverting away a bit from what was the first 2 seasons. And in season 3, it's going to be more about the Mandalore story, the Dave Filoni side of that. If you go into that Vanity Fair article, there's a really cool piece where Favreau and Filoni both came with Mando type stories. And Filoni's was much more focused on the lore that he didn't get to explore in the Clone Wars. And Favreau's was more of the lone gunman. And Kennedy said, let's try this together. And the first 2 seasons, or especially the first season, was the lone gunman. And then you see more of a blending it in the second season. And it looks like the third season is going to be much more of a Filoni-focused story.
There's a lot of Bo-Katan in this in the trailer. She almost takes up almost as much as Mando in this.
And the Mandalore, visiting Mandalore, going to Mandalore to get his
It's
kind of
stripes back
redemption
or
is-
whatever you want to call it, right?
it's like they're framing Bo-Katan to be somewhat the
villain, right?
villain,
Yes.
Yeah.
the antagonist to him. So yeah, and right now I'm reading the Revan novel, on the Legends novel, and it's like I'm looking at some things in that novel. Not that there would never be a 1-to-1, but there's a part of this where they're looking for the Mask of Mandalore the Great. Again, this is no Republic novel for people who don't know, and like the idea that Din is going to Mandalore to like cleanse himself in the holy waters of Lake Minnetonka with Prince. It's like it's there's shades of like parallels in these stories, and I'm wondering how much they're pulling from some Legends things to frame what Mandalore is like. And the stuff that's in Revan, it's not on Mandalore, it's on a different planet. There you go.
Good book.
I'm like halfway through, and again, part of the hashtag hardcover. I bought my copy, and I like the idea of this like enemies to friends kind of story, this like tenuous relationship, because that's what Revan has with Canderous Ordo in the book, and Canderous's wife, another Mandalorian, and stuff like that. And to see Din and Bo kind of be at odds for what Mandalore means to each of them, and what that means for the future of what Mandalore is, knowing that the whole planet basically turned to, scorched earth, shattered glass kind of place. So
yeah, man, it's going to be absolutely something else. And I believe that comes in February of 23. They're dropping that. So that's really exciting. The last thing that I'm going to bring you here back into the conversation, Rob, the last thing they announced was Skeleton Crew. So it's kind of a surprise reveal of the next live action, or a new live action show that we've never heard about, that's going to be featured in and around Jude Law as one of the main characters. And kind of the thread or the plot line here is a group of kids that get lost in the Star Wars universe. And it's been told, or the story is being developed by John Watts, director of the Spider-Man trilogy, the MCU Spider-Man trilogy. And he kind of outright said it's Star Wars. It's about Star Wars, or kids in Star Wars, but it's not a kids show. And so pretty cool to see that Disney Plus is expanding out. But Rob, we've got Skeleton Crew, we've got Andor, we've got Mando. Ahsoka is filming. Rosario Dawson had a little bit in the panel too. We're currently watching Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that's like 5 big shows that are either currently filming or slated for release within the next year or so. So Disney Plus, and this was again framed up in that Vanity Fair article, Star Wars is going to be televised. And so hearing all this, the buzz on the floor, like what are you feeling? Oh, sorry, Rick, go ahead.
There's one more that they announced earlier today that's going to be on Disney Plus tonight. It's called Young Jedi Adventures. And I'm going to read what they put on Twitter, on Star Wars Twitter. It says, set during the High Republic era, this original series follows younglings as they study the ways of the Force and become Jedi. Compassion, self-discipline, teamwork, patience, and friendship. Young Jedi Adventures is coming to Disney Plus and Disney Junior spring 2023.
Is it animated or live action?
Doesn't say.
Doesn't say. Feels animated. Okay. That was but again, like I said, Star Wars is going to be televised. So,
and I'm sorry, and we also have the Tales of the Jedi animated shorts that we're going to hear about tomorrow.
So much. So, Rob, how do you feel about Star Wars being televised? All this stuff being put in front of us.
I'm excited for it. I've given up on assuming. Oh, maybe that's not. I'm always positive about whatever comes out. Like when Resistance came out, I'm like, that's not for me. I'm a 48-year-old man, nor should it be for me, and that's okay. I have lots of Star Wars, so I don't poo-poo any announcements. But I keep, even Mandalorian. I was like, do I need that? You know what I mean? And again, I'm not on social media like saying, this is terrible. Give me Luke or nothing. You know what I mean? So it's. I'm not gatekeeper or nothing. It's just like, but then it comes out. I'm like, apparently I needed this. And again, the same thing with Andor. I'm like, is this something I'm going to be interested in? I'm assuming now. I'm like, yeah, they figured me out. They're going to put something out there. Don't worry, Rob, you're going to like this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Unless it's cutesy and animated, you're going to be great. Even the Bad Batch, I thought, I don't need to follow around 5 clones. Like, and it comes out, and then there's Omega, and why do I like?
You mean Omega?
Omega, yeah. So So why? And it's like, well, why am I now? I'm going to the Bad Batch season 2 panel, and I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to it because I want to see, because apparently it's going to be a little bit more in the future. I want to see what they do with it, and now I'm hooked into it, and I'm just, if whatever they put out, I'll watch. Again, if it's for young adults or if it's for children, I understand where I got my lane, and I've just given up on saying, oh, maybe I won't like this, because every time I've liked it.
Yeah.
You know?
And like these stories too, even this Mandalore story that is kicking up in season 3 of The Mandalorian, it's dropping barriers for people to go back to the Clone Wars, to go back to Rebels, to back to these shows that tell a lot of that story, and like the roots of where Filoni grew his storytelling capabilities and sensibilities and what he was doing. Like he's a handpicked protege of George Lucas to tell stories in Star Wars. Right. And now he's being groomed by Kathleen Kennedy in live action, and Favreau, right? One of the greatest filmmakers of our time in Jon Favreau. Like this guy's done literally everything, and they're at the helm of all of this. And Disney Plus, the thing I love about Disney Plus right now, we're getting lots of MCU content, we're getting lots of other content. It's a great library, but Star Wars has found its footing there. The sequels, I like the sequels. I'm a big fan of the sequels, but for whatever reason they have, and this was, again, I keep coming back to this Vanity Fair article because I think it's a great article, but they've stepped back and said, okay, the big screen, we got to rethink, we got to marinate. These are events, but Disney Plus, we can tell all kinds of stories here. And this is going to be the platform we're going to use. And most things they've said that are coming out are either actively filming or have a release date tagged to them. And so it's really great that we're getting now consistent Star Wars 2, 3, 4 times a year, but it's not even on the big screen.
Well, I think it's great. Oh, sorry, Tim, but I was
No.
just, if I'm because I've come from growing up, unless George Lucas wanted to make it or supervise it, it wasn't happening. You know what I mean? So it's not like, well, what's George Lucas making next? You know what I mean? Or what's now? It's like, it's not just one person. You can give these projects to different people. You know what I mean? And find Dave Filoni's and the Jon Favreau's of the world. Even the directors in these things are
Deborah Chow right now.
Kenobi. Yeah. And I saw a panel today with the Industrial Light and Magic panel, because there's a documentary coming out that Lawrence Kasdan's produced and directed, and they're talking with Ron Howard, and he's like, somebody brought up, oh, your daughter, like, oh my god, like.
I watched the panel. Did you watch the panel with Ron Howard? Like, he was there, and he was incredible. The atmosphere was amazing. They asked him if they were going to make a solo too, and people started like screaming and chanting, and he was just like, he started talking about his daughter. He's even started to promote Dominion a little bit, but it was just like, he's like, I'm gonna pass it. I'll pass. People are saying like, what they're doing in Mandalorian, what she's doing in the Mandalorian is incredible. Like, and he's like, yeah, I'll pass that on. And
it's almost like I'll
it was just
later.
Just that atmosphere of people just accepting and praising Solo. Like, even for me, like, I was getting emotional just watching that panel, and it was great to see that.
Yeah, it's a weird. It was cool to be there. It's very weird being here. Rick, from Chicago, and Mark Godseff talked about this in my first celebration in Orlando. It's like you're looking at a tapestry, but you're like literally, your nose is against this painting, right? And you can't see it. I can only see what's going on in front of me, and you guys are at home, pulled back, and you're watching. It's like, oh, look at there Star Wars Live is doing this, and at 2:00 there's a panel here, and you're almost getting more information than I am, because I'm getting my singular view, and then I'll come to my hotel and look online like, oh wow, that happened today. What?
Yeah, well, I heard this about Celebration a lot. Like, I heard that you have to. It's changed. Like, back in the early days of Celebration, you could basically see everything. But the way it is now, you've got to kind of pick and choose what is your focus, what is your main love for Star Wars, and kind of honing on that, because otherwise you're going to be running around trying to catch everything, and you're going to miss all these different things. And I think now it's such a big event and there's so much going on, and there's so many different aspects of Star Wars that you have to be a little bit more selective over what you focus on.
But it comes down to it, and like me never being to a celebration, and the guys, both Robin and Rick have, but to me, it comes down, you're paying for the experience.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you can get the Android trailer on your phone, or you can, whatever. Like that all comes, and we're getting all this information. You're gonna come back, and you're like, oh, I was like literally there, but didn't even know this happened.
Yeah.
But you're also kind of there and wandering around, and it's so awesome that Star Wars, like, it takes events like this to kind of bring things back around, right? To get you excited and hyped, because Star Wars, they took a pause for a little while there where there wasn't much going on. The Mando would hit, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, this is great. And then it's quiet, but the momentum is building. And 2022 is a big year for Star Wars, and celebration is back. Rob is down there right now, and we're here talking. We're here celebrating from far, far away, and it's so cool. And there's so much more to come in Star Wars. We got 2 more days, and Rob's gonna be down there, and he's gonna be detailing it for us and bringing us back the goods. And I think we're gonna kind of call it there, guys. We're gonna put a pin in Star Wars for just a moment, because we've got 2 more days of celebration. Rob's going to come back with like 8 of the last 17 figures. I just know. He's going to show his wife, and he's going to be like, it's great, but you can't get that new car that you wanted. Like, I am sorry, the mortgage payment this month, we'll see about it. But
yes, exactly.
No, guys, this is
for the kids.
Yes, it's fine. They can have macaroni and cheese. It's okay. It's okay.
Portions,
no meat,
portions.
No meat for this week. We're going protein free for this week. But no, guys, this has been great. I've had a blast just talking about Star Wars, and it's helped with my anxiety of not being on the floor there with you, Rob. And thank you so much for calling in. But I want to go around the horn here and just give everyone an opportunity to pump your social media. Rob pumped a little bit about Archie. You're getting back into probably rolling him out into different events and all that. So I'll start with you, Rob. You're down in Anaheim, you're experiencing it. Let people know where they can find some images, some pictures. Maybe you can tell us, you can show us some of the Hasbro stuff that's going to be popping off here today, tomorrow, and the next day.
Absolutely. I'm going to be a little bit more on the camera a lot in the next 2 days, because I'm kind of zoning in on what I want to see. So you can follow me. I'm at Robert MMCast on Twitter and Instagram. Check it out there. If you're interested, my R2 is came out before the pandemic, but now since the pandemic, haven't been able to take him out too much. But I have a hashtag Rob's R2, and that's just whenever I do take him out. If someone takes a selfie, I try to tell them, hey, you want to use this hashtag? That way we can see his adventures. So if you want to see my actual R2, you can go online and go hashtag Rob's R2, and you can check him out. And I will be closing my DMs, because unless these 3 gentlemen want anything, I'll happily pick something up. But I can't bring everything home for everybody. So
I already got that Jan Favreau figure that they released, because I have the Pau Vizsla, and then I have the Happy Hogan figure as well.
Do you have the Filoni?
I don't have the Filoni, but I can just pop the head off of the Happy Hogan figure from the MCU Marvel Legend and stick him on the Pau Vizsla. I'm only kidding. I was kind of to me, that was a little cheap shot at Hasbro, because that's not much of an exclusive, if you ask me. But
3 years for a head sculpt in a box.
Yes, I actually today I was asked. They do have a Citizen Watches has an exclusive watch that they only made 75 of, and you can get them here, and it's the low price of something like $220 American, and
is that all?
That's all, yeah. And they have these Citizen watches, and they're like, they saw me in my tunic, and they're like, wow, this is maybe you should buy this R2 watch. I'm like, oh, I'm a builder. I actually have an R2. So you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, and then they got me to stand next to their display so they can take a picture of me with their display for some reason. Yes, the Citizen watches, yeah. So it's, again, weird experience. It's a good time. I highly recommend that. I know times have been tough lately, but make it a bucket list thing, and definitely check out one of these. And also, Rick, you're very fortunate to be mistaken for a very handsome actor. It could be worse. It could be like, I'm sure you'd feel different if it was Steve Buscemi playing the role. And you're like, that guy looks like Andor. It's like, what? Oh, come on. Yeah. So, but anyway, thanks, Tim, for letting me blabber.
No, thank you.
It's a good time, and we'll Tim, you guys have my personal text
Yeah.
number or DM. But again, I can't bring everything home for everybody. So
No, you can't. Rob's not bringing home like wagonfuls of Pau Vizsla.
I'm
John
after one of
Favreau.
these movie realization Daimyo Boba Fett dioramas. It's only about this big. If you want to ship that to Japan, you can do that for me if you want.
I can. Yeah, I can. Also, did you see
$2,000 shipping?
Yeah, did you see the Bib Fortuna diorama setup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the new big release coming.
Yeah, you can. There's something for everybody. Anyway.
Yeah. Cool, Rick, man. Thanks. We've been trying to get together for so long to chat, and I'm happy we've been able to put this together and kind of, like I said, quell a bit of those or calm a bit of that envy, that FOMO that's happening here. Just kind of doing this has made me feel a lot better, and I hope it's made you feel a lot better, because having you here, and I don't mistake Diego or you for Diego Luna. I mistake Diego Luna for you. That's the direction it goes for me.
Well, you're a man after my heart, Tim. I mean, I'll cross borders for you, my friend.
just be glad it's just the heart.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks.
Public
Man,
social and all that.
So guys, you can find me at Cad Bane's Bounty. You can see it right there on the screen. I am also happy to say that Jam Transmissions is back. We did have episode 112 come out on May 4th with Pete and I. And spoilers for anybody who hasn't listened to it, but it was the last episode Pete was going to do for the show. He decided to step away semi-permanently. He may come back from time to time. And just to kind of give people a heads up on what the show is going to be going forwards. I have lots of ideas, but it's going to be somewhat of an interview type show with Star Wars as a backbone, but I want to know real life. How people's fandoms shape how they think about their real lives and the decisions that they make. So I do have a couple of guests already lined up so far. One that I secured this morning. I'm not going to say who these people are just yet. So some names you may know, some names that you may not know in the Star Wars community. But I want people to really get to know who the people are behind either their creative passions or just how their fandoms shape their lives. So you can find Jam Transmissions on Twitter at JTComlink. We also have our email address, comlink@jamtransmissions.com. I did record a little short episode before this that I'm hoping to get out maybe late tonight or tomorrow morning. Just a little short 20-minute thing. And I also do literary reviews for Children of the Watch. You can find them on Twitter at COTWatch. And those shows are on their Patreon. It's only $2. And their Patreon, it's patreon.com/The Mandalorian Watch. And I would be remiss if I did not say throughout this hour and 17 minutes, where is Troy? Is he safe?
He's safe.
I miss Troy the boy, man. I wanted to do something. This is one of the reasons why we haven't been able to connect, is because I've been waiting for Troy to be able to come back. So Troy the boy, wherever you're, I did send him that Hayden clip yesterday of This Is Where the Fun Begins. And I hope it kind of brightened up his day. So Troy, I love you. I miss you. And I will beat you in every arm wrestling competition we ever have. So.
Yeah, man. Them guns. Yeah, Troy is very, very much safe. And I don't have him like locked somewhere. But no, man, just let's cut up with all of us.
Exchanging our Hot Toys purchases. I know he's pretty happy at the moment. So
I let him use the internet once in a while. Ian, my dude.
Yeah, like for me, like I guess for me on Twitter, I'm at Tokyo_Joey, which is kind of my old nickname. My Instagram's always changing. I think at the moment it's like Tokyo_Joey_TNR. But yeah, of course, most importantly for me, I'm part of the Nerd Room. So I'd like you to check out the YouTube page. I try and make videos, some unboxings, some reviews, and kind of like to promote that too. So you can follow me there. But yeah, most importantly for me, just to share the screen with, these two guys, Tim. Already, this guy's my brother. I love this guy, but Rob and Rick, you've been there from day one for me for the social media side of Star Wars. And man, like, it's been an absolute honor just to be on the same screen as you two guys. And you've really, like, helped me find a community in this world, in the Star Wars world. So thank you so much, and it's been such a pleasure to share the screen with you too. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. This has been a fantastic conversation. Like I said, it's always great to get the community on a live stream, on a discussion, on a podcast or whatever, and just talk Star Wars, celebrate Star Wars. And so, Rob, I hope you enjoy the rest of your time down there in Anaheim, and to the boys that are sharing this, and to everyone that's sharing this from around the world, thanks for tuning in. And let's do more of this. Let's do more of the celebrating Star Wars through this. We've got lots to come here with Kenobi and much more. And we appreciate you guys coming here and checking us out here at the Nerd Room. We've got a podcast that drops every single Thursday. You can see my handle at the NerdRM both on Instagram and Twitter, and our YouTube channel. If you're here, if you're new, give us a sub. We're trying to build this. Myself, Carlos, and Ian are always pumping out videos, room tours, figure reviews, whatever. Just trying to do new and fun things that supplement the podcast on primarily the toy side of things. So give us a sub, give us a like, do whatever you got to do. And again, appreciate everyone being here. The panel around the table, it's been fun, but let's see what Star Wars brings the next 2 days. And I cannot wait to break some more of this down with the community, with everyone across social. So thank you guys so much for being here with us. And I've got to go put the kids to bed here. They're it's late already, and they've been part of this. They've been so good, but just want to go nap. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. We're going to call it there. So thank you so much for entering the room, and thank you everyone for celebrating Star Wars with us from far, far away.
Thank you.